Say what's cracking, YouTube? It's your boy 16 to life, and I'm back like I'm on a parole violation. Yard down! Now, for those of y'all that's new to my page, in 1994, I got arrested. I was eventually sentenced to 16 years plus life. I served 24 years straight in the California prison system. During those times, I accumulated some good stories and some insight on things related to prison. I'm going to share some with y'all now. If you like the video, hit that like button, subscribe. Most importantly, hit that notification bell. That way, anytime I drop a story, you will be notified ASAP Rocky, and you can hop on it whenever. Also, be sure to go to my YouTube playlist and scroll down to my stories. I got them organized in different categories. You can find something that you like. Now, let's hop right up into this right now. So, on Tuesday, a rapper who goes by the name of Money Sign Suede was stabbed and killed in prison out here in California, in one of the prisons. The name of the prison that he was at is CTF, which also goes by the name of, it's more commonly known in California as Soledad. Soledad is a minimum and a medium security facility, level 2 and level 3s, depending on what part of the institution that they had him in. He was only 22 years old, and his real name was Jamie Valdez. Apparently, they did count. He wasn't in the cell, and they found him shortly thereafter. I guess he was stabbed in the shower somewhere. And so, that's extremely unfortunate. He's a rapper up out of the Huntington Park area. Now, to be honest, I had never heard of him, or I had never heard of his music. So I did a little bit of researching and stuff. I seen some people yesterday saying that he was killed in Solano, but from everything I seen, no, he was killed in Soledad. Now, when you talk about notorious prisons in California, a person may mention, of course, Pelican Bay, Calipatria, Salinas Valley, New Folsom. A prison like Soledad probably wouldn't be in the top 10 prisons, when you're talking about notorious prisons that have a reputation for violence, right? But sometimes I'll do a story talking about a level 2 prison, and you may have some people say, oh man, we don't want to hear them level 2 stories. But people fail to realize prison is prison. There is always an element of danger and violence in every single prison that you go to. Actually, when I went to a level 2 in 2000, I believe 5, somewhere around there, I seen the most deadliest knife that I had ever seen the whole 24 years I was in prison at a level 2. These knives were being made in the welding shop. Now, when you go back to welding, it's an area that's known as work exchange, and you have to go through a metal detector when you're going through there and coming back. Now, the way the knives was being made in the welding shop, the knives were being made in the welding shop. Then there was a Crip who was paralyzed and in a wheelchair, and so he would bring the knives back and just sit on the knives. Due to the fact that he was in a wheelchair, every time he would go through, of course, it's gonna beep, and they never even tripped or sweated him or made him stand up. So, for the people who've never been to prison, or for the people who've not necessarily never been on a level 2, it's violence everywhere. Just because a person has stayed out of the way and made it down to a level 2 doesn't necessarily mean he's not violent. And then also, I ran across a lot of notorious Crips and Bloods who had reputations as being killers in prison on a level 2. Reason being that, when you stab somebody a time or two in prison, even though there's like 32 prisons in California, word gets around that you play with them Kisus, like Banky Pound calls them, Bethlehems, that you'll put work in with that knife. And for the most part, you're not gonna have no trouble. Prison sometimes it's a place that I would say 75-85% of the trouble that a person gets into is self-induced. So I mean that, if you know how to stay out the way and mind your business, and you have a reputation for stabbing people, for the most part, you're not gonna have no problem as long as you mind your business and programming as you should. It's just unfortunate, because when I think that the guy lost his life at the age of 22, when I was 22 years old, actually, I was on the run, and I got caught. I got caught for the crime that sent me to prison maybe about 10 or 15 days before I turned 23. And so just to think that this individual lost his life, this young man at the age of 22 is, um, it's a cold, sad situation, right? I mean, okay, also, he was only sentenced to 2 years and 8 months. So he was he was only doing what, 32 months maybe is that's what that is. And he'd been in prison for 4 months before he was killed. I'm sure no one goes to a level 2 thinking they're going to lose their life. But like I said, sometimes the level 2s can be a little more wilder, because when you have a level 3 or a level 4, there's more structure. The element of violence is definitely more prevalent at a prison like that. You can see it, you can sense it. So that keeps people in line, knowing that, if they mess up, they can be violently put in line, I guess. Now, at some of these lower level prisons that I was at, it always seemed like sometimes there was ruckus. It was more stuff to deal with, because you have people there who haven't done a whole lot of time, who don't necessarily know how to do time. And sometimes you have people there who honestly think that I'm on a weak level 2, I can do what I want. And then unfortunately they get corrected through by way of violence. From the reports and stuff that I read, the guy was up out of Huntington Park, an area not too far from Los Angeles. He didn't gang bang, but he rapped. He had I saw where he had a party before he had went to prison, and actually this was his second time being in prison. He was in prison for a felon in possession of a gun. From the reports that I read, he had already done a 10-month sentence in prison earlier. And so I'd seen where he had a party at one point in time, and 3 people were shot and killed at the party, and 4 people was also injured at this particular party. So I don't know if what happened, had a connection to what's going on. But like I said, it's unfortunate, because I think now in today's age, if you rap, even if you don't necessarily do what's considered gangster rap, just if you rap, especially, and I seen some of his music later, he did rap about being in the streets and having money and stuff like that. People expect you to live a certain lifestyle and be about violence, and just be everything that you say you are in your raps. And then of course you have these certain individuals too who may just want to test you simply because you rap, and they want to try to get some I guess some fame or some street cred by saying, hey man, I've done such and such to this guy who raps. He's not everything that he says he is. Who knows what the problem, who knows what the cause of everything that happened, who knows what really caused, his passing in prison. We can only speculate. I hear some people saying, hey, well, you know what? They should have had the dude on a SNY yard, which stands for Special Needs Yard, or a Protective Custody Yard. But I don't know how it goes in other states, but in California, they can't force you into a protective custody yard or SNY yard. That's something that you have to request. And now, of course, I'm thinking that this individual, him being young, 22 years old, he raps, he wants that street cred, so he's not going to ask voluntarily, hey man, or he's not going to ask, and he's not going to want or accept being forced to go to protective custody, because of course it's going to hurt his record. It's going to hurt his street image. It's going to hurt his record sales, possibly, when people say, hey man, well, this dude, he talks all this type of stuff, and he went to jail and he was in PC. So when you're young, you're in the streets, we feel that we have to live up to a certain image, even if we're not gang banging. And it's unfortunate, in my opinion, that rap is like that today. I grew up in an era where you had rappers like Ice Cube, NWA, Scarface, to name a few of the gangster rappers. To me, now, I like to refer to those guys as reporters, because those dudes were reporting what was going on in the streets, some things that they had seen possibly. They wasn't involved in it like to the degree you have these rappers today. These rappers today feel they have to be involved in doing everything they rap about, and it's unfortunate. And like I said, even though I went to prison, I had a life sentence, and I was in some notorious prisons around some notorious people. I feared at times and was worried or concerned about getting hurt in a riot. But I never thought I'd be killed in prison, So I say that to say that you have this young man going to prison for what seemed like a short stint, or at least to me, when you're young, 2 years in prison may seem like a long time. Like I said earlier, he had already done 10 months. So I don't know how he felt about his time. But to me, doing all the time that I did, 32 months is not long. I'm sure he expected to come home and just, he went to prison. He was in prison 4 months and lost his life. And so anything can happen in prison. Like I said, man, you always have people in prison who, when everything else fails, they will resort to using violence to solve their problems, because that's the type of atmosphere that's in prison. That's one thing that everybody respects at the end of the day. If you get me twisted, you get an individual twisted, it's expected for him to come and use violence. And I did a story called Chill versus Goliath, and I was charged with a stabbing on a level 2 yard, on a level 2 yard. So, like I said, man, prison is prison. The element of danger is there on every prison yard, whether it's maximum security, minimum security. And what could be worse at a minimum security is you have more access to tools and things that you can use to make weapons. And the security is not that tight in terms of the police. They're not watching and trying to stop the making of weapons the way they would be on a level 4, because to be honest, they assume that most people are there just to do their time and go home. And for the most part, you do have a lot of people like that. People that are just trying to go home. You have young people there who are in prison for the first time, because the California prison system is based on points. The more you go to prison, the higher points you get. The higher points you have, it's going to put you on a higher level, or maybe the type of crime that you committed. It's a lot of things that factor into your point system, so, but I'm just stating that, for the individuals who don't realize that a level 2 can be just as dangerous as a level 4. And unfortunately, it goes to show for that young man, he lost his life on a level 2 prison, man. So I just think that the dudes out there need to think, man. They need to think about the stuff they get themselves into, because there's no guarantee when we go to prison we make it out. So anyway, unfortunately, rest in peace to Monday Sign Suede. Condolences to his family, his friends. It's a horrible situation, but like I said, it just goes to show that anything can happen in prison. We don't plan for these type of things to happen, but I do want to include, I didn't plan to go to prison for 24 years, so we never know what's in the future. So it's just best to try to remove ourselves from those type of things that can lead to that. And I almost feel like I'm wasting my time saying that, because when you're young, when you hear things like that, for the most part, people don't even listen, because we never assume it's going to happen to us. Like I said, I never assumed that I was going to prison for so long. So anyway, you already know what it is. It's your boy 16 to life. Resume normal program.